hi, I'm Amy Stevens. You're about to learn one of the world's most baffling pieces of magic, the newspaper tear. And who better to teach this classic but the man who wrote the book on the effect, Gene Anderson, known internationally for his highly charged routine and his exacting instructions. Gene shows you how to get paid for being a cut-up.
I would like to perform my favorite effect, the illusion of the torn and restored newspaper. Now, if you've never seen this particular effect, what I do is tear a newspaper completely to shreds, and then with the sheer magic of mental concentration, cause the pieces to recombine into the very same newspaper. So you know it when you see it again. I'm going to page through the paper very slowly. I ask that you remember some picture or ad from somewhere within. This is USA Today. Now, the reason that I say this is an illusion is because I never really tear the newspaper. Now, sometimes people think that I'm tearing the newspaper because they think they hear paper tearing. Other people are deluded by the fact that they think they see separate pieces. But you folks, sitting up close like you are, can see this is not actually the case. When I have done this, I weld the pieces all together in a little sort of a fuse welding process I've invented, and then the paper is completely restored. You don't seem to believe me? You take a look. Remember the pictures? Thank you very much. Now, the torn and restored newspaper has several interesting facets. How I view this is if God spoke to you and said, I'm going to give you the power to do one trick. It won't be a trick. You can actually do it. You will be able to tear and restore a newspaper. No trick. Sorry, it's the only one you can do. But how would you do it? It says in the old books, don't tell the audience what you're going to do. Nonsense. You had the power. First thing you do is say, I can tear and restore this newspaper. Then what would you do? Well, you have to show them the paper in some way. Maybe you could have them initial it, or you could do, but some way you have to show them the paper so they will know it when they see it again. Well, that's not really very easy to do because a paper is kind of unwieldy. I mean, what do you do? Do you show it like this, which is, how are you going to show this thing? That's probably the weakest you can be on stage, 3/4 rear profile, so how do you show a newspaper? Have to work that out. Then you have to tear it in some way that's convincing that nobody has any doubt that paper has been torn. Then you have to restore it. Bang! It should be back right now. And then you show it to them again, not to say where are the pieces, because there are no pieces, but to say, there you are, the very same newspaper. Well, that's what we're trying to achieve, and the effect has 4 separate phases: showing, tearing, restoring, and showing. Now, we magicians are intrigued by the third part, the restoring, because that's when we do the real tricky stuff. But the audience doesn't know that. To the audience, each phase is equally important. Now, the showing part, let's talk about it first, because it does have some special things about it. A newspaper, for example, this page I can show, well, I thought that if I were going to be frontal about this, I'd say, this is the newspaper. And I would show the next page the same way. But it has a little problem, and that is, that page falls down. Now, this is a normal newspaper, doesn't have anything in it, and that page falls down and looks tricky. So, if I'm going to really do this, I have to learn to handle a normal newspaper so that it doesn't look tricky. I can do that in one of 2 ways. I can either hold it with this hand over here, but the other thing I can do is not have it go square across, but have it tilt a little bit to the side. Okay, like this, right? So then when I page to the middle page, no problem. I can go either way. When I page to the third page, same problem. If I went there, it's bad, but I can kind of meet it like this, and then I can close the paper. But so to the audience, each phase is equally important. Now, the restoring part, which is the part we magicians are so intrigued with, I'll take a paper that does have a gimmick in it. And there it is, and that's my little packet. That's the paper that's going to be restored. And in doing so, I'll fold this up so you can see why does that packet go away so quickly. Well, the reason it goes away so quickly, now this would normally be torn pieces that you're going to make go away, but you, I think, can understand the concept very well. The pieces are up front here. When I let it go, this is unfolded already. There's the pieces behind there. It's out of sight already, okay? And I haven't even started opening the paper yet. And so basically what I've done is fold the paper around in some way that it rapidly unfolds. So the substitution of the pieces are really two ways that you can achieve it. This way is the clip method. The alternative is a pocket method. The pocket method is what was used by Slidini. Alex Elmsley did in his version, and a number of other very good methods of using a pocket to vanish them. The clip, the pocket has the advantage that you can work with tighter angles on your side. A clip has the advantage that you can do a more rapid restoration, and that's what I wanted to do here. Cortini, I believe, was the first one who used a clip in his. Al Koran, in Routine Manipulation 1, had one with a flash restoration. I loved that idea. Korans didn't exactly work. You could watch where the pieces went. So what I did is built on Al Koran's shoulders and made it so you couldn't see where the pieces went. And that's basically what I do. Now, in showing this newspaper, the first and the fourth phases, what I actually do in this is add an extra page. Basically, I'm doing a double lift with newspaper by having an extra page in there. This is, you could say, is an application from card magic, and it's probably exactly what it is. And what creativity is taking something from outside the field and applying it to the field. And the further from a field it seems to be, the more creative it's judged as being. And that's what you should do with your magic. Say, what principle is being used here, or what principle could I use here, and where could I use this principle someplace else? That's great creativity for magic. So I have an extra page in here, and I will stand up here and do the paging through now. This is where the pieces are, but when I page through, I'm not going to show you where they are. This is the first page, and it's normal. I'm not showing anything. This is the second one. I haven't done anything yet. I'm going to page to the third one now and take two pages at the same time. I've aided this, I'll show you this later, but I've folded on a corner so I can easily get them. That is, I can easily double lift. So when I come back this time, I pick up both of those pages and swing the load across right in front of them. So when I go the last time, there it is. Okay? Number of different performers have come up with different places they could position this load as opposed to being here for reasons that they may choose. Why mine is positioned where it is because that's where the center of gravity is. That is, if I hold this newspaper like so, that's where the load is right here, and that's exactly where the newspaper hangs under normal conditions. You may choose to move it around for some other reasons, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is make this trick yours. This one works if you want to have that center of gravity just like a normal newspaper. Okay, the tearing itself has its own special problems. That is, newspaper is made with a grain. It tears this way very nicely. It does not tear this way very nicely. It tends to go astray somehow or other, and you can't, whoops, you just can't get nice pieces. I've taken advantage of that. Rather than fight the grain, I've taken advantage of that grain so that mine is torn with that grain. You can actually practice this by using newspapers at home without any gimmick in them. Just take several sheets of newspaper, set the thing up, without any gimmicks in there, and just practice tearing. Can you tear it? Can you tear it? Because when you're going to perform this, you're going to have to be able to tear that cold, and you need to be able to know you can control the tear. And once you're down to this size, you can control that very easily. But those first ones are a little bit risky, and so you want to know that for sure you can do it. And that just requires practice. Practice cold. And basically what I mean by practicing cold is that you come home and you do it once, and then later on you do it once. So every time when you try this thing, you're practicing cold. It's not like hitting and after you've shot a number of baskets in basketball. This is shooting and making the first basket every time. That's what you're trying to do in doing so. Okay, let's set up a paper then and show you exactly how each of these things are set up. Now, I use USA Today a lot because it's got great color and it looks super on stage. It really flashes across with color. Two of the sections are real good for this. Two of them date you, and they're okay if you use today's newspaper, but you have to look out. I selected this one as an example that you can use that when it's Super Bowl time, but if you use it 2 weeks after Super Bowl time, they know it's an old newspaper. Not so good. The two sections which are quite good are the financial section and the entertainment section. Those don't have much dating to them. But in this particular one, you'll note that the double or the color ad is a back-to-back ad, which is not what you show the best in the newspaper. So I fold that inside out so that it will be the center fold of the newspaper. So when I'm showing the newspaper to them, oops, I squinched that down a little bit. When I'm showing the newspaper to them, that's going to be the centerfold, which looks great. Lots of color coming at them, right? Now I'm going to make the double lift, if you will, the extra page, and I just do that by tearing off a hinge, if you want to call it that, like so. Rubber cement, which is very handy because you can position the rubber cement later on. And that is, I can put that on there and position the paper while the rubber cement is still wet, like so, and line that up. And now I have 3 pages that are pretending to be 2 pages. Okay, the folding itself, move this out of the way so it's a little clear, more clear. I fold first the center section, or the center 2 pages over. Then I flip the entire paper over and fold the back 3 pages over to the center. And I'm going to fold the center section over to that line that I've just created, and then bring those back 3 pages back again. Then I fold them over on themselves. They stay together as a unit, and fold the front 2 pages over on themselves. Fold it up in the middle to mark where that center is. Fold this up to the center, fold this down, and then back on itself again. Now prepare the pages so that I can do that double lift. First one folds down like that, just a little diagonal fold. This one's folded halfway on itself and then up. That's where that front page is the front page, and so that allows me to do that double lift to pick up that extra page. And these 3 are carried together, so in final form it looks like this. And in performance, what I will do is come up, place my finger in here, grasp those 3, and that allows me to hold the whole paper with the pieces there, and at any time I want to, I can come up, grab this, and restore the paper just like that. So that's how that part is done. Now I will prepare a paper like that, and put the clip in there, and the clip looks like this. This is galvanized wire. It's 18 gauge, and comes in a roll like this. I take 18 inches of it, cut it off at 18 inches, and just make a little clip that looks like this. You can put newspaper on each side of it. I've found a slight improvement now, and that is to put masking tape around it first on each side, which means that it doesn't cut through the paper quite as quickly, and that means that I can use it more times in performance, because I can use many, many papers on this, replenishing each of these each time, and so the one that I tear this time, or the one that I restore this time, becomes the one that I tear the next time. So if I buy 10 papers, I can now tear it 9 times. That's kind of a nice self-perpetuation feature. Okay, this then is covered with newspaper, and what I find good for this, if I have one here, is a tabloid size paper. Here's one, I guess I tore it up a little bit, but tabloid paper is, tabloid size, has its grain running the other way, so that if you try to do a tear on it, it tears this way, which makes it very handy to cover because the writing is running the same way as you will have it when you wrap it around. So a finished clip then looks like this. It's just covered with newspaper on both sides. Then I put rubber cement on it like this. Okay, finishing up on this preparation that we had done here, because we hadn't put the glue in yet, hadn't put the clip on yet, so let me just quickly set this up. What we will do is, I have a little thing called camouflage, and the camouflage looks like this. Let's get this paper here. And it's just to disguise the looks of those pieces. I just get a couple of strips of paper and put some glue along here like this, and this, and this. This is where the packet is going to go, so I don't put any glue there yet. And I just glue like this, same on the other side, and what that will do is disguise this packet, so if they catch a glimpse from the side, they don't know what they're looking at, and it looks just like torn pieces. It's like this, okay? And I will show you what that camouflage does. If they catch a glimpse of this from the side, it doesn't look like a nice, neat packet. It looks like torn pieces, particularly if it's disguised with other pieces up front so that it basically doesn't look like a nice, neat thing. That just protects your side angles a little bit. So in the paper, what that looks like then, this is, put some glue on here and let it dry. Okay, and I will let it dry like that. And after it's dried, I put some paper over it. Generally, I use wax paper because it keeps it from sticking down too much. Other paper, after a while, it'll stick to it, even though it doesn't initially, but after a while, it kind of tacks on. And then I unfold the paper and leave it unfolded until just before the performance. Then I fold it up again. That way, it doesn't have a bunch of creases in it, and so it unfolds much better for performance. Now this one is exactly that, except I've already glued it on the paper. Here's what the strips look like, the camouflage strips. Those won't be the ones you need, but the ones that are on this little paper here will be the ones you need. So let's go through from the top then on this trick and show you exactly what happens at each phase as we're doing it and how the restoration actually takes place and how to handle that. Okay, this is folded down like this, right? So there we are, right? So that's what it would look like for the restoration, and we'll do that restoration part twice. Do it now, then I'm going to tear that paper. That wouldn't be the way you perform it, but I want to show some basically important points. One is, where do you throw this thing? You don't restore this like a foulard. That is, you don't have to go, or you'll tear the paper. It doesn't require that. It's got enough weight it's going to do it itself. What I basically do is throw it about 45 degrees out there so that it's floating out on air, and by the time it comes down, it's restored. I'm going to do this one sideways, and when I do it again, it'll be frontwards, okay? So this one is sideways, and it's like that. And maybe we can, I hope you can see that, but it isn't like a foulard, just boom, there it is. Okay, so the paging through, which we had done up front, is this. Now, this would be the way I would start the thing, you know, the trick with the torn and restored newspaper, paging through up front to show them what the paper is, okay, just like this. The tearing. Now, let's talk carefully about the tearing. When I tear, this one is easy. But the next one, I've got a packet right here, and I want to be sure that I hide it. And what I find is that I can kind of pull it back against my chest so that I'm really holding that packet right about here, and I will tear with my right hand going forward. So that's what I'm going to do here. Okay? So if you get a bad tear, and this one is kind of a bad tear, I can cover it with this, and I can turn it back at myself so they won't notice, even though it's sort of flashing out there. Okay? And I can come back and cover up this one. The next tear I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to do it on the other side. And I'll just hold it up against my chest, basically. and cover any bad tear, and purposely I went close to that packet, as close as I dared go, so I'm really exposing it. But if I'd done this in performance, again, I can cover that pretty well by that greater motion. Oops, I didn't mean to drop all of those, but it doesn't matter for the purposes of our demonstration here. Okay? Tearing off all of these things. Now, what I would do, by the way, in performance, if I had actually dropped those, I hold this up high like this and say, tried to get away. And I hold this up high and bend down and pick up those pieces, because it happens. So you just make a point of it and make sure they don't think anything has gone wrong here. Okay? Finally, you bend the clips around there. That's just my little moment of magic. This is what happens, and it's this fuse welding process I've invented. And now, and I bent the clips around, now I put my finger in this little thing and say, so I'm ready. The paper is completely restored. Okay, so I'm holding it like this, ready to be restored. All I have to do is come up and grab those corners. And when I do, there it is. I'm ready to page through again, and that's the torn and restored newspaper. Okay, and now how would you set it up for the next performance? The first performance, what you've done is take the piece of paper, and I have this wax paper over it, and I had a piece of wax paper over the clip. The clip is folded around the paper like this and placed into the newspaper. This one already has a clip because it's the one that I had restored, so it changes it only slightly. I have put some glue in there, put the wax paper over it again. I fold up the next one that I'm going to restore, place that into the newspaper with its corners up, fold the clip around it, and we're ready for the next performance. So that completes, I think, everything you need to know about tearing and restoring a newspaper.
If you enjoyed Gene Anderson's newspaper tear, don't miss his individual video that includes more newspaper magic and his amazing die box routine.
Jump, bully, jump.